My name is Lorraine Bennett, and I'm 73 years old. I worked as a legal secretary for 42 years, raised 2 sons alone after my husband died, and retired with $425,000 in savings that I'd carefully built through decades of discipline and smart decisions. I'm sharp, capable, and perfectly able to manage my own affairs. Which is why what happened 3 weeks ago at First National Bank left me speechless, and not in a good way. I'd gone to the bank to inquire about a wire transfer that appeared on my monthly statement. A transfer of $35,000 that I didn't recognize. My son Kevin and his wife Amanda had driven me to the bank that morning. I'd mentioned the discrepancy to Kevin the night before, and he'd insisted on accompanying me. "Mom, let us help you sort this out," he'd said. "Banks can be complicated these days. Amanda works in finance. She'll know what questions to ask." I should have trusted my instincts, should have insisted on going alone. But Kevin had been so eager to help, and I'd thought, what's the harm? We walked into the bank together. I approached the customer service desk and said to the representative, "I need to inquire about a wire transfer on my account. I don't recognize." That's when Amanda interrupted me, actually stepped in front of me and started talking to the bank representative as if I wasn't even there. "Hi, we're here about Lorraine Bennett's account. She's having some confusion about her recent transactions. We need to review her account activity and possibly make some adjustments to how her accounts are structured. She's getting older and having trouble keeping track of things." I stood there, stunned. Having trouble keeping track of things? I'd managed accounts for lawyers for 4 decades. I knew exactly what was on my bank statement, and I knew that $35,000 wire transfer wasn't something I'd authorized. The bank representative looked at me, then at Amanda, uncertain. "Ma'am, is this your daughter?" "Daughter-in-law," Amanda corrected. "And her son Kevin. We're here to help her manage her finances. She's been having some memory issues." Memory issues. I opened my mouth to correct her, but Amanda kept talking. "We're concerned that she might be vulnerable to scams. Elderly people often don't realize when they're being taken advantage of. We want to make sure her accounts are protected." The bank representative nodded sympathetically, looking at me with pity, like I was some confused old woman who couldn't handle basic banking. I could have interrupted, could have corrected Amanda's lies right then and there. Could have told the bank representative that I was perfectly capable and had no idea what Amanda was talking about. But something stopped me. Something about the way Amanda was talking, so confident, so authoritative, so ready to paint me as incompetent, made me want to hear where this was going. So I stayed quiet. I let my daughter-in-law finish speaking for me at the bank. Let her spin her narrative about my supposed confusion and memory problems. Let her explain to the bank representative how she and Kevin were so concerned about me. And what I heard in those next 10 minutes changed everything I thought I knew about my son and daughter-in-law. Because Amanda wasn't just expressing concern. She was building a case for why I supposedly couldn't manage my own money, a case for why Kevin and Amanda needed to take over my financial affairs. And that $35,000 wire transfer I'd come to ask about. By the time Amanda finished talking, I had a very good idea where it had gone and who had authorized it. My daughter-in-law spoke for me at the bank. I let her finish. And what I learned by staying quiet and listening would lead me to discover a betrayal so deep, so calculated, that it would ultimately destroy my relationship with my son while saving me from losing everything I'd worked for. But before I tell you what Amanda said during those 10 minutes at the bank, before I reveal what I discovered about the $35,000 transfer and the conspiracy behind it, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that subscribe button. Do it now. Then smash that like button, because this story is going to show you why sometimes the smartest thing you can do is stay silent and let people reveal their true intentions. Turn on those notifications, that bell icon, because you need to hear what happened when I stopped defending myself and started paying attention to what my daughter-in-law was really saying. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. What city? What state? What country? I want to know who's here with me today. Because what I discovered by letting Amanda speak for me about what she and my son had planned for my money, it's going to shock you just like it shocked me. And it taught me that sometimes silence is the most powerful response when someone is lying about you. Now let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you about my relationship with Kevin and Amanda, and about how I ended up at that bank with a daughter-in-law who thought she could speak for me while plotting to steal my future. To understand what happened, you need to understand my family and how money has always been at the center of our complicated relationships. I raised two sons, Kevin and Marcus, alone after my husband Robert died when the boys were 8 and 6 years old. Robert had a massive heart attack at 41. No warning, just gone. Robert had been a high school teacher. Good man, but we'd never had much money. When he died, there was a $75,000 life insurance policy, and that was it. I used part of it to pay off our mortgage so the boys and I would always have a home. Put the rest in savings for emergencies. I worked full-time as a legal secretary while raising Kevin and Marcus. The law firm I worked for was good to me. I started as a receptionist and worked my way up to senior legal secretary, eventually managing the office for 3 senior partners. I made decent money and learned a lot about law, contracts, and protecting assets. I was careful with money, had to be as a single mother. I budgeted meticulously, saved what I could, invested wisely. By the time I retired at 65, I had $425,000 in savings and investments, not wealthy, but comfortable. Kevin, my oldest, always had a complicated relationship with money. He saw how hard I worked, how carefully I budgeted, and I think it made him resent the discipline required. As soon as he had his own money, he spent it freely. Kevin went to state university on scholarships and loans. I helped where I could, but he mostly financed his own education. He got a degree in marketing and got a good job at an advertising agency, made decent money. But Kevin also spent everything he made. New car every few years, expensive apartment, designer clothes, frequent vacations. He lived paycheck to paycheck despite making a good salary. Kevin, you should be saving, building an emergency fund. Mom, I am saving. I have some money in savings. How much? Like $3,000. That's not enough. Kevin, you make $85,000 a year. You should have at least 6 months of expenses saved. Mom, I'm enjoying my life. I work hard. I deserve nice things. When Kevin was 32, he married Amanda. She was 28, worked in corporate finance, made good money herself. They seemed like a good match, both ambitious, both career-focused. But I noticed Amanda had the same spending habits as Kevin, maybe worse. She wore designer everything, drove a luxury car, talked constantly about expensive restaurants and weekend getaways. At their wedding, which cost over $60,000 and was paid for by Amanda's parents, I overheard Amanda talking to her friends. Kevin's mom is loaded. She has like $500,000 in savings. When she passes, Kevin will inherit everything. We'll be set. It bothered me, but I tried to brush it off. People say thoughtless things. It didn't necessarily mean anything. After the wedding, Kevin and Amanda bought a house. A big, expensive house in an upscale neighborhood. They were stretching financially, I could tell, but they insisted they could afford it. Mom, we got a great deal. And with both our incomes, the mortgage is totally manageable. What's your monthly payment? $4,200. Kevin, that's over half your take-home pay. We make it work, and Amanda's about to get promoted. Once that happens, we'll have plenty of cushion. Amanda didn't get promoted. Instead, 6 months after they bought the house, her company downsized and she was laid off. Suddenly, they were trying to maintain an expensive lifestyle on just Kevin's salary, and they were drowning. That's when the requests for money started. Mom, can you lend us $5,000, just until Amanda finds a new job? I lent them the money. They promised to pay me back. They never did. Mom, we need $8,000 for property taxes. We'll pay you back next month. I lent them that too. Never saw it again. Over 2 years, Kevin and Amanda borrowed $27,000 from me, always with promises to repay, never with actual repayment. Kevin, you need to start paying me back. I'm not a bank. We will, Mom. We're just going through a rough patch. Amanda's new job doesn't pay as much as the old one. We're trying to get caught up. Then sell the house, downsize, live within your means. We're not selling our house. Mom, we've put so much work into it. It's our dream home. It's a house you can't afford. Kevin, you're 35 years old. You need to make better financial decisions. That conversation happened about a year ago. After that, I stopped lending Kevin and Amanda money. Stopped answering when they'd call with emergencies that always required cash. They didn't like that. Didn't like that their reliable ATM had closed. About 6 months ago, Kevin started bringing up my age. A lot. Mom, you're 72. That's getting up there. Have you thought about what happens if you get sick? Who would manage your finances? I manage my own finances. I have for 50 years. But what if you couldn't? What if you had a stroke or something? Mom, you need to plan for that possibility. I have a will. I have a power of attorney document. Everything's in order. Who's your power of attorney? My attorney, Richard Morrison. He's handled my legal documents for 20 years. Kevin frowned. An attorney? Mom, that's so impersonal. It should be family. It should be me. Richard is professional and objective. That's what I want. But Mom, I'm your son. Don't you trust me? It's not about trust. It's about having proper professional management if I'm incapacitated. Kevin let it go that day, but he kept bringing it up. Every visit, he'd mention something about my age, my need for help, the importance of family managing finances. Then, about 3 months ago, Amanda joined the campaign. Lorraine, Kevin and I have been talking. We really think you should let us help you with your finances. Just reviewing your accounts, making sure everything's optimized. We both work in business. We understand money. We could help you get better returns on your investments. I'm happy with my current returns, and I manage my own accounts. But Lorraine, at your age, wouldn't it be easier to let someone else handle the details? You've worked hard your whole life. You should be enjoying retirement, not worrying about financial management. I'm not worried. I enjoy managing my finances. It keeps me sharp. But mistakes could be costly. Lorraine, if you accidentally made a bad investment or fell for a scam. I'm not going to fall for a scam. I worked in law for 42 years. I know how to spot fraud. Amanda smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Of course. I'm just saying it would give Kevin and me peace of mind if we could help. We worry about you. I should have seen what was coming. Should have recognized they were laying groundwork for something. But I thought they were just being annoying, not plotting. Then, 3 weeks ago, I received my monthly bank statement and noticed something odd. A wire transfer of $35,000 from my savings account to an account I didn't recognize. I called the bank immediately. There's a wire transfer on my account that I didn't authorize. Can you tell me where it went? One moment, Mrs. Bennett. The representative typed for a bit. That transfer was initiated by Kevin Bennett, who's listed as a joint account holder on your savings account. What? Kevin's not a joint account holder. I never added him to my account. According to our records, he was added 3 months ago. You came in with him and signed the paperwork. My mind raced. 3 months ago, I'd gone to the bank with Kevin to deposit a check. He'd said he was opening a new account and had asked me to come along for moral support. We'd sat with a bank representative for about 20 minutes while Kevin filled out forms. I'd signed something that day. Kevin had said it was just a witness signature for his new account, but clearly it had been something else. I need copies of everything I signed that day. Of course, Mrs. Bennett, we can mail those to you. It'll take about a week. I hung up, furious. Kevin had tricked me into signing documents adding him to my account. Then he'd transferred $35,000 without my knowledge or permission. I called Kevin immediately. Did you take $35,000 from my account? Mom, I can explain. Explain? Kevin, you had me sign documents I didn't understand. You added yourself to my account without telling me. Then you stole my money. I didn't steal it. Mom, we were about to lose our house. The bank was starting foreclosure proceedings. I needed money to catch up on the mortgage. I was going to pay you back. By stealing from me. Kevin, that's theft. It's not theft, it's borrowing from family. Mom, you have plenty of money, you don't need all of it. We were desperate. So desperate you had to trick me and steal from me. I didn't trick you. I told you we were adding me to your account. No, you didn't. You said I was signing witness papers for your account. You must have misunderstood. Mom, I swear, I told you what you were signing. Don't gaslight me, Kevin. I know what you said. And I know what you did. You need to return that money, today. I can't. We already used it to pay the mortgage. Mom, it's gone, but we'll pay you back, I promise. Like you paid back the other $27,000 you borrowed. Kevin, I want my money back, and I want you removed from my account immediately. That's when Kevin's tone changed. Mom, you're overreacting. And honestly, I'm worried about you. Getting this upset over money, making accusations. Mom, I think we need to have a serious conversation about whether you're capable of managing your finances anymore. I was so shocked, I couldn't respond. My son was threatening to have me declared incompetent because I'd caught him stealing from me. Kevin, I'm perfectly capable. Are you? Mom, you just told me you don't remember signing the papers adding me to your account. That's concerning. That's memory loss. What if you're making other mistakes and don't realize it? The only mistake I made was trusting you. Kevin sighed. Mom, Amanda and I are coming over tomorrow. We need to talk. About your finances. About getting you proper help managing them. This situation has made it clear you need assistance. He hung up before I could argue. The next morning, Kevin and Amanda showed up at my door. Mom, we're going to the bank. We need to straighten out this confusion about the wire transfer. There's no confusion. You stole from me. I want the money returned. Mom, let's just go to the bank and sort this out. Okay, we can explain everything. Against my better judgment, I agreed. I wanted to go to the bank anyway, to demand Kevin be removed from my account. So I let them drive me. And that's how I ended up standing at First National Bank, watching my daughter-in-law speak for me to the bank representative, claiming I had memory issues and needed help managing my finances. I stood there silent as Amanda built her case, and I listened, really listened, to every word she said. Because Amanda wasn't just making casual conversation. She was executing a plan she and Kevin had clearly prepared in advance. And by staying quiet and letting her finish, I was about to learn exactly how deep their betrayal went. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I stood there, silent, while Amanda continued speaking to the bank representative, a young woman named Jessica who kept glancing at me with increasing concern. As I was saying, Amanda continued, Lorraine is having difficulty tracking her finances. She's accused us of taking money from her account when actually, she authorized a transfer to help with a family emergency. She doesn't remember authorizing it. That's the kind of memory lapse we're concerned about. Jessica looked at me. Mrs. Bennett, do you remember authorizing the transfer? I opened my mouth to speak, but Amanda cut me off again. You see, she's confused. This is exactly what we're worried about. Jessica, we need to discuss options for protecting Lorraine's assets. Perhaps a trust arrangement where Kevin and I can manage her funds while ensuring she still has access to what she needs. Kevin jumped in. We've been researching elder financial management structures. We want what's best for Mom. We want to make sure her money is safe and that she's provided for. But we also need to be realistic about her declining capacity. Declining capacity. I was standing right there, perfectly capable of speaking for myself, and they were talking about me like I wasn't even present. Jessica looked uncomfortable. Mr. and Mrs. Bennett, these are serious matters. If you have concerns about Mrs. Bennett's capacity, there are legal processes. We know, Amanda interrupted smoothly. We've already consulted with an elder law attorney. We're in the process of petitioning for conservatorship. But in the meantime, we need to ensure Lorraine's accounts are secure. Can you walk us through what options exist for joint management of her accounts? Conservatorship. They were planning to have me declared incompetent. I could have interrupted then. Could have told Jessica that I was perfectly competent and these two were lying. But something kept me quiet. I wanted to hear the full extent of what they'd planned. Jessica was clearly uncertain. Ma'am, I really can't discuss account restructuring without Mrs. Bennett's explicit consent, and any changes to account ownership require her signature and verification that she understands what she's signing. Of course, Kevin said. We're not trying to do anything without Mom's involvement. We just want to understand our options so we can present them to her in a way she can understand. The condescension in his voice was infuriating, but I kept quiet. Well, Jessica said hesitantly, there are several options. Joint ownership, which it appears you already have on one account. Power of attorney, which allows someone to manage accounts on behalf of the account holder. Or a trust structure, where assets are held in trust with designated trustees. And if we were concerned that Lorraine might resist these protective measures, Amanda asked, what if her cognitive decline makes her paranoid or resistant to help? Then you'd need to pursue legal guardianship or conservatorship through the courts. But ma'am, that's a serious step. It requires medical evidence of incapacity. We have medical evidence, Kevin interjected. Mom's doctor has noted memory issues in her file. That was a lie. I just had my annual physical 2 months ago. Dr. Patricia Chen had given me a clean bill of health, including cognitive function. She'd specifically noted on my chart, patient is sharp, articulate, manages her own affairs without difficulty. But I didn't contradict Kevin's lie. I wanted to see how far they'd go. Amanda pulled out a folder. We've brought documentation. Notes from concerned family members about Lorraine's declining function. Examples of financial mistakes she's made. What kind of mistakes? Jessica asked. Paying bills twice. Forgetting to pay bills at all. Asking the same questions repeatedly about her accounts. Making impulsive purchases she doesn't remember. All classic signs of cognitive decline. Every single thing Amanda was saying was a lie. I paid my bills once on time, every month. I'd never made an impulsive purchase in my life, and I certainly didn't ask repetitive questions. But Amanda was building a file, creating a paper trail of fictional incompetence that could be used against me in court. Mrs. Bennett, Jessica said, turning to me directly, do you feel you're having difficulty managing your finances? I could have answered, could have said, no, I'm perfectly capable, and these two are lying to steal my money. Instead, I said quietly, I'd like to speak to a bank manager, please. Of course, let me get Mr. Patterson. Jessica left to find the manager. Kevin and Amanda exchanged a look, worried, calculating. Mom, you don't need to make a big deal out of this, Kevin said. We're just trying to help. By lying about my capacity, by fabricating medical evidence. Kevin, I've been standing here listening to you and Amanda systematically lie about me. Do you think I'm so far gone that I don't understand what you're doing? Amanda's face hardened. Lorraine, you're proving our point. You're getting agitated, defensive, making accusations. These are signs of... Don't, my voice was steel. Don't you dare finish that sentence. I am not agitated because I'm incompetent. I'm angry because my son and daughter-in-law are attempting to commit fraud. Fraud, Kevin's voice rose. Mom, we're trying to protect you. By stealing $35,000 from my account, by tricking me into adding you to my accounts, by fabricating evidence of incompetence. Kevin, that's not protection. That's elder financial abuse. Before Kevin could respond, a man in his 50s approached us. I'm Thomas Patterson, the branch manager. I understand there's a concern about account management. Yes, Amanda jumped in immediately. We're here with Lorraine Bennett. We're her family, and we're concerned about her ability to manage her finances. She's showing signs of cognitive decline, and we want to ensure her assets are protected. Thomas looked at me carefully. Mrs. Bennet, is that accurate? Are you having difficulty managing your accounts? No. What's accurate is that my son added himself to my account without my knowledge by having me sign documents under false pretenses. He then transferred $35,000 without my authorization. And now he and his wife are attempting to paint me as incompetent to cover up what amounts to theft. Thomas's expression shifted. That's a serious accusation. It's also true, I said. 3 months ago, I came to this bank with my son. He told me I was signing witness papers for his new account. Instead, I was signing papers adding him as joint owner to my savings account. I didn't know until I saw the $35,000 transfer on my statement. Mom, that's not what happened, Kevin started. I'm not finished, I said firmly. I called Kevin about the transfer. He admitted he took it to save his house from foreclosure. He called it borrowing, but I never gave permission. When I demanded the money back, he threatened to have me declared incompetent. And now he's here with fabricated evidence trying to make that threat a reality. Thomas turned to Kevin. Is this true? Did you transfer $35,000 from your mother's account without her explicit permission? I'm a joint account holder. I had every right to transfer funds. That's not what I asked. Did you have your mother's permission for that specific transfer? Kevin hesitated. She knew I was having financial problems. She knew I might need to access the account. That's not permission, Thomas said. That's assumption. He turned to me. Mrs. Bennet, what would you like to do? I want my son removed from my account immediately. I want the documents I signed 3 months ago reviewed to determine if I was misled. And I want to file a complaint about this attempted fraud. Mom, you're making a huge mistake, Kevin said. If you do this, if you make this public, everyone will know. Everyone will see that you're paranoid and unstable. It'll just prove that you need help. No, I said quietly. It'll prove that you're a thief who tried to cover his theft by claiming his victim was incompetent. Kevin, I spent 42 years working in law. I know exactly what you're doing, and I know how to stop it. Amanda stepped forward. Lorraine, think about this. If you pursue this, you'll destroy your relationship with Kevin, with us, with your only grandchildren. Is that what you want? To be alone because you're too stubborn to accept help? I have grandchildren, I asked. Kevin and Amanda, you don't have children. Amanda's face reddened. We're planning to, soon. And Lorraine, those children will need their grandmother, but not if you're going to be hostile and accusatory. So now you're using hypothetical future grandchildren to manipulate me. Amanda, you need to work on your strategy. That one's weak. Thomas cleared his throat. Mrs. Bennet, why don't we step into my office? We can discuss this privately and review the documentation from 3 months ago. That sounds perfect. I started to follow Thomas, but Kevin grabbed my arm. Mom, don't do this. Please, we can work this out as a family. You don't need to involve the bank. Don't need to make this into a legal issue. I looked down at his hand on my arm, then into his eyes. Let go of me, Kevin. Mom. Let go. He released my arm. I followed Thomas to his office, leaving Kevin and Amanda standing in the lobby. Once we were seated in Thomas's office, he pulled up my account history on his computer. Mrs. Bennet, let me review the documents from 3 months ago. He typed for several minutes, reading screens I couldn't see. His expression grew increasingly grim. Mrs. Bennet, I need to apologize. You're correct. The paperwork from 3 months ago is irregular. The signature card adding your son to your account was processed during the same appointment where he was opening his own checking account. The representative who processed it, who's no longer with the bank, noted that you were signing as witness for your son's account. But the actual document you signed was joint ownership paperwork for your savings account. So I was deliberately misled. It appears so, and Mrs. Bennet, that's fraud. The representative should have clearly explained what you were signing. Your son should have ensured you understood. This is a serious violation of bank policy and potentially criminal. Can my son be removed from my account? Immediately. I'll process that right now. And Mrs. Bennet, I'm going to recommend that we review all your accounts to ensure there haven't been any other unauthorized changes. Over the next hour, Thomas and I reviewed every account I had at First National Bank. What we discovered was worse than I'd imagined. Kevin hadn't just added himself to my savings account. He'd also added himself to my checking account and my money market account. And he'd listed himself as beneficiary on my CDs, changing the beneficiary from my younger son Marcus to himself. When did these other changes happen? I asked. Thomas checked the records. The checking account addition happened 2 months ago. The money market account 3 weeks ago. The beneficiary changes happened at the same time as each account addition. And I supposedly authorized all of this. According to the paperwork, yes. But Mrs. Bennet, I'm looking at the signature cards, and I see a pattern. Every single one is marked as being processed during appointments where you were supposedly helping your son with his accounts. Every single one has notes indicating you thought you were signing something else. How much total access does Kevin have? Thomas calculated. Complete access to approximately $425,000 in various accounts. And if something happened to you, he'd inherit about $200,000 in CDs based on the beneficiary changes. I felt sick. Kevin had systematically gained control of my entire financial life over 3 months, and I'd been completely unaware because he'd hidden it under the guise of me helping him with his banking. Thomas, I want Kevin removed from everything, every account, every beneficiary designation. I want it all changed back to the way it was before he started manipulating me. I'll process that immediately. Mrs. Bennet, I also want to discuss additional security measures, password protections, verification requirements for any future changes. We need to ensure this can't happen again. Good. And Thomas, I want to file a formal complaint against Kevin. What he did was fraud. I'll prepare the paperwork. Mrs. Bennet, you should also consider filing a police report and speaking with an attorney about recovering the $35,000. After we finished in Thomas's office, I stepped back into the lobby. Kevin and Amanda were still there, waiting. Mom, did you calm down? Kevin asked. Are you ready to talk reasonably? I'm completely calm, and I'm ready to tell you that you've been removed from all my accounts. The beneficiary changes you made have been reversed, and I'm filing a formal complaint with the bank and a police report for fraud and theft. Kevin's face went white. You can't do that. Mom, I'm your son. And you're also a thief. Kevin, you systematically gained access to my accounts through deception. You changed beneficiary designations without my knowledge. You took $35,000 without permission. Those are crimes. We'll fight this, Amanda said. We have documentation of your incompetence. We'll go to court. We'll get conservatorship. Lorraine, you're making the biggest mistake of your life. No, Amanda. The biggest mistake of my life was trusting my son, but I'm correcting that now. I walked out of the bank, leaving them standing there. I called a taxi to take me home. I wasn't about to accept a ride from them. When I got home, I called my younger son, Marcus. Marcus, I need to tell you what's happened. I explained everything. The unauthorized account additions, the $35,000 theft, the attempt to paint me as incompetent. Marcus was furious. Kevin did what? Mom, I'm coming over right now. We need to get you a lawyer. We need to file reports. Mom, this is serious. I know. I've already started the process at the bank. But Marcus, there's something else. Something I heard while standing in that bank letting Amanda speak for me. What? They have a plan. A detailed plan to take control of my finances. They've consulted with an elder law attorney about conservatorship. They've created documentation of supposed incompetence. Amanda brought a folder full of fabricated evidence to the bank. Marcus, this wasn't an impulsive theft. This was a calculated, long-term scheme to take everything I have. We need to stop them. Mom, what do you want to do? I want to fight back, but I need help. I need a lawyer who specializes in elder abuse. I need to understand my options. And Marcus, I need to know, have Kevin and Amanda approached you about any of this? There was a long pause. About a month ago, Kevin called me. He said he was worried about you, said you were showing signs of dementia. He asked if I'd noticed anything. I told him you seemed perfectly fine to me. He said I wasn't seeing it because I live across the country and only talk to you on the phone. He said he and Amanda were considering legal action to protect you. Did he ask you to support a conservatorship petition? Not directly, but he implied that if it came to that, he'd want me on board. Mom, I told him you were completely capable and I wouldn't support any action against you. He got angry, said I was being naive, that you were clearly declining and I was too far away to see it. He was laying groundwork, trying to build a family consensus that I was incompetent. If you'd agreed, he could have used your support as evidence in a conservatorship hearing. I'm so sorry, Mom. I should have told you about that conversation immediately. You had no way of knowing what it meant. But Marcus, I need you to document that conversation. Write down everything Kevin said when he said it, what he was trying to get you to agree to. It might be useful as evidence. I'll do it today. And Mom, I'm booking a flight. I'm coming to help you deal with this in person. After I hung up with Marcus, I sat in my quiet house and thought about what had happened at the bank, about how Amanda had spoken for me, building her case of incompetence, about how I'd stayed silent and listened. That silence had been the smartest thing I could have done. Because if I'd interrupted Amanda immediately, if I'd defended myself right away, I wouldn't have heard the full extent of their plan, wouldn't have known about the conservatorship petition, wouldn't have understood how carefully they'd orchestrated this scheme. My daughter-in-law spoke for me at the bank. I let her finish. And what I learned by staying quiet gave me the information I needed to fight back. But the fight was just beginning. Because 2 days after my bank visit, I received a legal document that proved Kevin and Amanda were even more determined than I'd realized. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. 2 days after my confrontation at the bank, a process server appeared at my door. He handed me a thick envelope and asked me to sign for it. Inside was a petition for conservatorship. Kevin and Amanda were formally requesting that the court appoint Kevin as my conservator, giving him legal authority to manage all my financial and personal affairs. The petition was 30 pages long. I sat at my kitchen table and read through every word, my hands shaking with anger as I saw what they'd compiled. The document painted a picture of an elderly woman in rapid cognitive decline. It claimed I had significant memory impairment, inability to manage financial affairs, confusion about basic transactions, and paranoid delusions about family members stealing from her. They'd attached evidence, statements from Kevin and Amanda describing incidents of my supposed confusion, a letter from their elder law attorney explaining the urgent need for intervention, medical records they claimed showed cognitive decline. I looked at the medical records carefully. They were from Dr. Patricia Chen's office, my doctor, but they'd been altered. Someone had changed dates, added symptoms I'd never had, and inserted notes about memory problems that Dr. Chen had never written. These were forged medical records, criminal forgery to support a fraudulent conservatorship petition. I called Dr. Chen immediately. Patricia, I need to see you urgently. Someone has forged medical records using your name. What? Lorraine, what are you talking about? I explained about the conservatorship petition and the altered records. Patricia, these documents claim you noted memory impairment, confusion, and cognitive decline in my file. You never wrote any such thing. Lorraine, come to my office right now. Bring those documents. If someone is forging medical records using my name, that's a serious crime. I'll pull your actual file and we'll compare. An hour later, I was sitting in Dr. Chen's office while she compared the forged documents to my real medical file. These are completely fabricated, she said, her voice tight with anger. Look, this document claims I saw you on March 15th and noted significant memory impairment. But your actual chart shows you weren't even in my office that day. And this one claims I recommended neurological evaluation for possible dementia. I never wrote that. Lorraine, Your cognitive function is excellent. I specifically noted that in your last exam. Can you provide me with my actual records? I need them to fight this conservatorship petition. Absolutely. And Lorraine, I'm going to report this forgery to the medical board and law enforcement. Whoever created these documents committed fraud and identity theft by using my name. Dr. Chen prepared a comprehensive letter for the court, detailing my actual medical status and confirming that the records attached to the conservatorship petition were fraudulent. She included my real medical file showing normal cognitive function. Armed with this evidence, I called the attorney Marcus had found for me, a woman named Catherine Walsh who specialized in elder abuse and fraudulent conservatorship cases. Catherine reviewed the petition and Dr. Chen's letter. Mrs. Bennett, this is one of the most blatant cases of conservatorship fraud I've seen. The forged medical records alone are grounds for criminal prosecution, but we need to act quickly. There's a hearing scheduled in 2 weeks. What happens at the hearing? Kevin and Amanda will present their case for why you need a conservator. They'll call witnesses, present their evidence, including these forged records. If we don't respond forcefully, a judge might grant the petition. Even with proof the records are fake. The judge won't know they're fake unless we present our evidence. Mrs. Bennett, we need to file a response to the petition. We need to explain what Kevin has been doing, the unauthorized account access, the $35,000 theft, the systematic deception. We need to show that this petition isn't about protecting you. It's about stealing your money. Over the next week, Catherine and I prepared our response. We gathered evidence, bank statements showing the unauthorized transfers, documentation of Kevin adding himself to my accounts under false pretenses, Dr. Chen's letter and my real medical records, and statements from people who could attest to my competence. Marcus flew in from Seattle. He provided a sworn statement describing Kevin's phone call asking for support in declaring me incompetent, and how I'd shown no signs of cognitive decline during our regular phone conversations. My attorney, Richard Morrison, who'd handled my legal documents for 20 years, provided a statement confirming that I'd always been completely competent in our interactions and had demonstrated excellent judgment in managing my affairs. Even the bank manager, Thomas Patterson, provided documentation of my meeting with him, noting that I'd been articulate, clear-thinking, and completely capable of understanding complex financial matters. But we needed more. We needed to show the court not just that I was competent, but that Kevin and Amanda's petition was part of a larger pattern of financial exploitation. That's when I remembered something. 6 months ago, around the time Kevin started pressuring me about my finances, I'd noticed my mail being delayed. Bills that should have arrived weren't coming. Bank statements were late. At the time, I'd chalked it up to postal service issues. But now I wondered, had Kevin been intercepting my mail? I went to the post office and asked to speak to the postmaster. I believe someone may have filed a change of address on my mail without my permission. Can you check? The postmaster looked it up. Yes, Mrs. Bennett, there's a temporary mail forward in place. It was filed 3 months ago, forwarding your mail to a different address for 2 weeks before being canceled. What address? She gave me Kevin and Amanda's address. I didn't file that forward. Can you give me documentation of who filed it? According to our records, you filed it in person. There's a signature on the form. Can I see the signature? She pulled up the scanned form. The signature looked like mine, but it wasn't quite right. Someone had forged my signature, probably Kevin or Amanda. This is fraudulent. I never filed this. Someone forged my signature. Mrs. Bennett, if you believe mail fraud has occurred, you should file a report with the postal inspector. I filed a report that day, and suddenly another piece of the puzzle fell into place. Kevin and Amanda had intercepted my mail for 2 weeks. During that time, they could have accessed bank statements, financial documents, personal correspondence, anything that came through the mail. That's probably how they'd known exactly which accounts I had and how much money was in each one. That's how they'd planned which accounts to add themselves to. Catherine was thrilled when I told her about the mail fraud. This is perfect. It shows premeditation. It shows a pattern of deception and theft. Mrs. Bennet, we're going to destroy their conservatorship petition. The hearing was held in a small courtroom with just a judge, no jury. Kevin and Amanda sat on one side with their attorney, a slick-looking man named Harrison Reed. I sat on the other side with Catherine and Marcus. Kevin and Amanda's attorney went first. He presented their petition, describing me as a vulnerable elderly woman suffering from cognitive decline who desperately needs protection from her own poor decision-making. He called Amanda as his first witness. She took the stand and testified about my supposed confusion. Lorraine has become increasingly forgetful. She asks the same questions repeatedly. She pays bills multiple times or forgets to pay them at all. She makes impulsive purchases she doesn't remember. She's become paranoid, accusing family members of stealing from her when we're only trying to help. It was a masterful performance. Amanda sounded concerned, loving, reluctant to take this drastic step, but convinced it was necessary. Then Kevin's attorney presented the forged medical records as evidence of my cognitive decline. That's when Catherine stood up. Your Honor, I need to address those medical records immediately. They're fraudulent. The judge looked surprised. Fraudulent? Yes, Your Honor. The petitioners have submitted forged medical records. Dr. Patricia Chen, Mrs. Bennet's actual physician, has provided a sworn statement confirming that she never wrote the notes contained in those documents. In fact, Dr. Chen's actual records show Mrs. Bennet is cognitively sound. Catherine handed the judge Dr. Chen's letter and my real medical records. The judge read through them carefully, his expression darkening. He looked at Kevin's attorney. Mr. Reed, are you aware these medical records are forged? Harrison Reed looked genuinely shocked. Your Honor, I was provided these records by my clients. I had no reason to believe they were anything but authentic. Your Honor, Catherine continued, the forged records are just one element of a systematic scheme by Kevin and Amanda Bennet to fraudulently gain control of Mrs. Bennet's $425,000 in assets. May I present our evidence? Please do. For the next hour, Catherine laid out everything. The unauthorized bank account additions accomplished through deception, the $35,000 theft, the intercepted mail, the attempt at the bank to paint me as incompetent, the pattern of exploitation. She called Thomas Patterson as a witness. He testified about finding me completely competent and clear-thinking during our meeting, and about the irregular way Kevin had been added to my accounts. She called Marcus, who testified about Kevin trying to recruit him to support a competency challenge, and about my normal cognitive function during their regular conversations. She called Dr. Chen, who testified that I was in excellent health for my age, including cognitively, and that the records submitted by the petitioners were fraudulent. Then Catherine called me to testify. I told the judge everything, about Kevin tricking me into signing documents, about discovering the $35,000 theft, about standing in the bank and listening to Amanda speak for me, hearing her build a false case of incompetence. Your Honor, my son isn't trying to protect me. He's trying to steal from me. He's deeply in debt, facing foreclosure, and he sees my savings as the solution to his financial problems. When I discovered his theft and demanded the money back, he threatened to have me declared incompetent. This petition is retaliation for me refusing to be victimized. The judge asked me several questions about my daily activities, my financial management, my understanding of my accounts. I answered each one clearly and thoroughly. Finally, Kevin's attorney called Kevin to testify. Kevin took the stand looking nervous. Mr. Bennet, did you add yourself to your mother's bank accounts without her knowledge? No, she knew I was being added. She agreed to it. Then, why do the bank records show she thought she was signing witness papers for your accounts? She was confused. She misunderstood what she was signing. So your mother was too confused to understand bank documents, but you still think she was competent enough to authorize giving you access to her life savings. Kevin stumbled over his answer. She understood at the time. It's only recently that her confusion has gotten worse. Did you transfer $35,000 from your mother's account without her permission? I had her permission. She knew I was having financial problems. Knowing you have financial problems isn't the same as giving permission to take money. Mr. Bennett, did you explicitly ask your mother if you could transfer $35,000 from her account? We discussed it. That's not what I asked. Did you ask her permission before making the transfer? Kevin hesitated too long. She would have said yes if I'd asked. So you didn't ask? No, but she had given me access to the account. That implied permission. Did you know the medical records submitted with this petition were forged? What? No. Amanda handled that. She said she got records from Mom's doctor. So you're claiming your wife forged medical records without your knowledge? Kevin's face reddened. I don't know what Amanda did. You'd have to ask her. The judge interrupted. I'd like to ask Mrs. Amanda Bennett some questions. Mrs. Bennett, please take the stand again. Amanda returned to the witness stand, looking wary. Mrs. Bennett, where did you obtain the medical records submitted with this petition? From Dr. Chen's office. I called and requested Lorraine's records. Dr. Chen testified under oath that she never released those records and that they contain notes she never wrote. Are you calling Dr. Chen a liar? Amanda's composure cracked. Maybe there was a mix-up. Maybe the office sent the wrong file. These records contain specific notes about cognitive decline dated on days Mrs. Bennett never even visited Dr. Chen's office. This wasn't a mix-up. These were fabricated. Who created these documents? I don't know. Maybe someone at the doctor's office. Mrs. Bennett, creating false medical records is a crime. Submitting them to a court as evidence in a legal proceeding is an additional crime. I'm going to ask you one more time. Where did these records come from? Amanda looked at Kevin, then at their attorney, clearly panicking. I want to invoke my right against self-incrimination. The judge's expression was stern. You're invoking the Fifth Amendment. Yes. The judge turned to Kevin. Mr. Bennett, do you have anything to add? Kevin shook his head. No, Your Honor. The judge was quiet for a moment, reviewing the documents in front of him. Then he spoke. I've heard enough. This petition for conservatorship is not only denied, it's being dismissed with prejudice, meaning it cannot be refiled. Mrs. Lorraine Bennett has demonstrated complete competence in these proceedings. She is clearly capable of managing her own affairs. Furthermore, I'm finding that this petition was filed in bad faith for the purpose of financial exploitation. Kevin Bennett and Amanda Bennett have engaged in a pattern of financial abuse, including unauthorized account access, theft, mail fraud, and submission of forged documents to this court. I'm issuing a protective order. Kevin and Amanda Bennett are prohibited from contacting Lorraine Bennett or accessing any of her financial accounts. Violation of this order will result in arrest. I'm also referring this matter to the district attorney for criminal investigation. The forgery of medical records, the mail fraud, and the theft of $35,000 are all criminal matters that warrant prosecution. Mrs. Lorraine Bennett, you have every right to pursue civil action against your son and daughter-in-law for the return of the $35,000 and any additional damages. This court will provide you with certified copies of all proceedings to support any such action. The judge banged his gavel. This hearing is concluded. Kevin and Amanda stood frozen as the judge left the courtroom. Their attorney gathered his papers quickly and left without speaking to them. Catherine turned to me. Mrs. Bennett, you won, completely and decisively. I should have felt triumphant, relieved, but all I felt was sad, because I'd just watched my son exposed as a thief and liar in open court. I'd watched his attempt to steal my life savings fall apart. And I knew our relationship would never recover. As Marcus and I were leaving the courtroom, Kevin called out, Mom, please, can we talk? I turned to look at him. There's nothing to talk about. Mom, I made mistakes, I know that, but we're family. We can work through this. Kevin, you didn't make mistakes. You committed crimes. You stole from me. You forged documents. You tried to have me declared incompetent so you could take everything I'd worked for. Those aren't mistakes. Those are calculated, deliberate acts of betrayal. I was desperate. We were losing our house. I didn't know what else to do. You could have asked me for help honestly. You could have admitted your financial problems and asked if I could help. Instead, you chose to steal. Kevin, that choice destroyed any trust I had in you. So that's it. You're cutting me off completely. You cut yourself off when you decided stealing from me was acceptable. Kevin, there's a protective order in place. You're not allowed to contact me. If you do, you'll be arrested. I suggest you follow that order. I walked away, leaving my son standing in the courthouse hallway. Marcus put his arm around me as we left. Mom, are you okay? No, but I will be. Over the next few weeks, several things happened. The district attorney filed criminal charges against Kevin and Amanda for elder financial abuse, forgery, mail fraud, and theft. They both hired criminal defense attorneys. I filed a civil lawsuit for the return of the $35,000 plus damages, attorney fees, and costs. And I changed my will. Kevin had been set to inherit half my estate, with Marcus getting the other half. I removed Kevin entirely, leaving everything to Marcus with instructions to donate a portion to organizations that help elderly people victimized by financial abuse. The criminal case moved slowly through the system, but the civil case moved faster. Kevin and Amanda's attorney contacted Catherine to discuss settlement. Mrs. Bennett, they're offering to return the full $35,000 plus $10,000 in damages if you'll agree not to testify against them in the criminal case. No, they return the money because it's the right thing to do, not as a bargaining chip. And I'm testifying truthfully in the criminal case regardless of what they pay me back. They won't like that answer. I don't care what they like. Catherine, these people tried to destroy me to steal my money. I'm not making deals with them. 6 months after the conservatorship hearing, the criminal case went to trial. I testified about everything: the deception, the theft, the forged documents, the attempt to have me declared incompetent. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. They found both Kevin and Amanda guilty on all counts. Kevin was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Amanda was sentenced to 2 years. Both were ordered to pay restitution of $35,000 plus court costs. When the verdicts were read, Kevin looked at me from the defendant's table. I saw anger in his eyes, blame, like this was somehow my fault for refusing to let him steal from me. I felt nothing. The son I'd raised, the boy I'd worked overtime to support, the young man I'd been proud of was gone. This person who tried to rob me was a stranger. After the trial, Marcus and I went to dinner. Mom, are you okay? I know this has been hard. It has, but Marcus, I'm also relieved. If I hadn't stood up to Kevin, if I hadn't fought back, I'd be under conservatorship right now. He'd have complete control of my money. I'd be trapped. What made you stay quiet at the bank that day, when Amanda was speaking for you? I thought about that. Instinct. Something told me that if I let her finish, I'd learn more than if I interrupted. And I was right. By staying quiet, I heard their whole plan. I understood exactly what they were trying to do. That information saved me. So sometimes silence is strategic. Exactly. My daughter-in-law spoke for me at the bank. I let her finish. And what I learned by listening gave me everything I needed to fight back and win. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. 2 years after Kevin's conviction, I received a letter from him in prison. It was the first communication I'd had from him since the trial. Mom, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I'm writing because I've had a lot of time to think about what happened and why I made the choices I made. I want you to know I'm sorry. Not because I got caught. Not because I'm in prison, but because I hurt you. Because I betrayed your trust. Because I was willing to destroy you to solve my own problems. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I needed you to know that I finally understand what I did was wrong. I read the letter 3 times. Part of me wanted to believe Kevin had genuinely changed. That prison had given him perspective, that this apology was real. But another part of me, the part that had spent 2 years rebuilding my life and my sense of security, was wary. Kevin had been persuasive before, convincing. He'd made me believe he just wanted to help me at the bank. He'd made me think adding him to my accounts was for my protection. I didn't know if this letter was genuine remorse or another manipulation. I showed the letter to Marcus, who was visiting for the weekend. "What do you think?" I asked. "Is he sincere?" Marcus read it carefully. "I don't know, Mom. Kevin's always been good with words. He knows what people want to hear, but whether he means it," he shrugged. "Only time will tell." Should I respond? "That's up to you, but Mom, you don't owe him anything. Not forgiveness, not a response, not even acknowledgement that you received this. You get to decide what kind of relationship, if any, you want with Kevin going forward." I thought about that for several days. Finally, I wrote a brief response. "Kevin, I received your letter. I hear what you're saying about understanding what you did was wrong. Words are easy. Time will show if you've genuinely changed. I'm not ready for a relationship with you right now. Maybe someday. But not now. I wish you well in your rehabilitation." I sent the letter and tried not to think about it further. Meanwhile, Amanda had served her 2-year sentence and been released. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she divorced Kevin while he was still in prison and moved to another state to start over. I also heard that she was telling people her version of events, a version where she'd been manipulated by Kevin, where she hadn't known about the forged documents, where she was a victim too. I didn't bother correcting the narrative. People who knew the truth knew the truth. People who wanted to believe Amanda's story would believe it regardless of what I said. 3 years after the trial, Marcus suggested something unexpected. "Mom, have you thought about writing about what happened? Your experience could help other people recognize the warning signs of financial exploitation." I don't know if I want to relive it all by writing about it. I understand that. But Mom, think about how many elderly people are going through something similar right now. How many are being pressured by family members to give up control of their finances? How many are being told they're incompetent when they're actually perfectly capable? Your story could help them. I thought about what Marcus said, and slowly over several months I started writing. Not a book, just an account of what had happened. The warning signs, the tactics Kevin and Amanda had used, how I'd fought back. I shared my writing with Catherine, my attorney. "This is powerful," she said. "Mrs. Bennett, would you be willing to let me share this with other elder law attorneys? This could be a teaching tool." I agreed. Catherine shared my account with colleagues. Word spread. Soon I was getting calls from attorneys asking if I'd speak to their clients who were facing similar situations. I started doing consultations, talking to elderly people whose children or other family members were pressuring them about finances, helping them recognize manipulation tactics, encouraging them to trust their instincts when something felt wrong. One woman I spoke with, Martha, was 78 years old. Her daughter had been pressuring her to add her to her bank accounts for convenience. "My daughter says I'm getting too old to manage money myself. She says she's just trying to help, but something feels wrong about it. Am I being paranoid?" "Tell me why it feels wrong," I said. "Because my daughter has never been good with money. She's always in debt, and she keeps mentioning how much money I have in savings. She'll say things like, 'Mom, you have $300,000 just sitting there. You should be doing something with it.' Like my savings are her business. That's a red flag. Your finances aren't her business unless you choose to make them her business. And Martha, if your instinct is telling you something's wrong, listen to that instinct." "But she's my daughter. Shouldn't I trust her?" "Trust is earned. And trust doesn't mean giving someone unrestricted access to your life savings. You can love your daughter while still protecting yourself." Martha ended up not adding her daughter to her accounts. 6 months later, she called to thank me. "My daughter got angry when I said no. She accused me of not trusting her. She stopped visiting for a while. But you know what? That reaction proved you were right. If she'd really just wanted to help, she wouldn't have gotten so angry about being told no. Over the next few years, I spoke to dozens of people in similar situations, and I noticed patterns. The adult children pressuring elderly parents for financial control almost always had money problems themselves. They were in debt, facing foreclosure, struggling financially. They saw their parents' savings as a solution to their problems. They used similar tactics, claiming the parent was confused, having memory problems, vulnerable to scams, offering to help manage finances, pressuring for joint account access or power of attorney, getting defensive or angry when told no. And most importantly, they isolated the elderly parent from other family members who might question what was happening. I started giving talks at senior centers about financial protection, about warning signs of exploitation, about how to set boundaries with family members. After one talk, an elderly man approached me. "Your son went to prison for what he did to you. Are you glad? Do you feel like justice was served?" I thought about that question. I'm glad he faced consequences. I'm glad he was stopped before he could victimize anyone else. But am I glad my son is in prison? No, I'm sad it came to that. Sad that he made choices that led to prison. But I don't regret holding him accountable. Don't you worry about what people think, about being the mother who sent her own son to prison. I used to, but here's what I learned. I didn't send Kevin to prison. He sent himself to prison by committing crimes. I just refused to be silent about what he did. There's a difference. 4 years after Kevin's conviction, he was released from prison. He'd served his full sentence and was now on parole. I heard from Marcus that Kevin had moved to a different city, gotten a job in construction, and was trying to rebuild his life. He hadn't contacted me, which I appreciated. The protective order had expired, but Kevin was apparently respecting my boundaries without needing a legal order to enforce them. Then, on my 80th birthday, I received a package. Inside was a handwritten letter and a check for $1,000. The letter read, "Mom, I know this doesn't come close to repaying what I stole from you. I know $1,000 is barely a dent in the $35,000 I took, but it's what I can afford right now. I'm working construction, living in a small apartment, trying to put my life back together. I'm sending you $1,000 now, and I plan to send the same amount every year until I've repaid the full amount. It'll take 35 years. I'll be 80 years old when the debt is finally paid. But Mom, I'm committed to doing this. Not because a court ordered it. That restitution was satisfied when Amanda and I sold our house before going to prison. This is personal restitution. This is me trying to actually make amends, not just say words about being sorry. You don't have to respond to this letter. You don't have to forgive me. You don't have to have a relationship with me. But I want you to know I'm paying back every penny, even if it takes the rest of my life." I stared at the check. $1,000. Kevin's commitment to send the same amount every year for 35 years. It was absurd. He'd be 80. I'd probably be dead before he finished paying me back. But it was also something genuine. The first genuinely selfless thing Kevin had done in years. I didn't cash the check immediately. I sat with it for several days, thinking about what it meant. Marcus called on my birthday. "Happy birthday, Mom. How are you celebrating?" I told him about Kevin's letter and check. "What are you going to do?" Marcus asked. "I don't know. Part of me wants to send it back. Tell him I don't want his money, I just want him to stay away and leave me alone." And the other part? The other part thinks maybe this is real. Maybe Kevin genuinely is trying to change, and refusing his attempt at restitution might undermine that. "Mom, you don't owe Kevin anything. Not acceptance of his payment, not forgiveness, not a relationship. Whatever you decide, make sure it's what you want, not what you think you should do." I thought about Marcus's words. What did I want? I wanted peace. I wanted security. I wanted to spend my remaining years without fear that someone would try to take advantage of me. Did I want a relationship with Kevin? I wasn't sure. Too much had happened. Too much trust had been broken. But did I want to punish him forever? Also no. I deposited the check, and I wrote a brief note. Kevin, I received your payment and your letter. I appreciate your commitment to making restitution. This doesn't mean I'm ready for a relationship. It means I'm acknowledging your effort to make amends. Continue on the path you're on. For the next 3 years, Kevin sent $1,000 every year on my birthday. Each payment came with a brief letter updating me on his life. He'd been promoted at work. He'd started attending therapy to deal with his issues around money and entitlement. He'd joined a financial literacy group to learn better money management. The letters were never asking for anything, never pressuring for a relationship, just updates accompanied by the annual payment. In the 4th year after his release, Kevin's letter included something new. Mom, I'm getting married. Her name is Rachel. She's a teacher. She knows everything about my past, the theft, the fraud, the prison sentence. I've been completely honest with her because I learned that deception destroys everything. We're having a small wedding in 2 months. I'm not inviting you because I know you're not ready for that, but I wanted you to know. I wanted you to hear it from me rather than through someone else. I read the letter 3 times. Kevin was getting married, moving on with his life, and he was being respectful of my boundaries by not inviting me. I called Marcus. Kevin's getting married. He sent me a letter about it. How do you feel about that? Surprisingly okay. I'm glad he's found someone. I hope she's good for him. I hope he's learned from his mistakes. Are you going to the wedding? I wasn't invited. Kevin was respecting my boundaries. But if you were invited, would you go? I thought about that. Maybe. I don't know, Marcus. I'm not ready to have Kevin back in my life fully. But I'm also tired of being angry, tired of holding onto resentment. It's been 7 years. At some point, I need to decide if I'm going to let go of the past or let it define my future. There's no rush, Mom. You get to move at your own pace. 2 weeks before Kevin's wedding, I made a decision. I sent a card with a simple message. Kevin, congratulations on your marriage. I wish you and Rachel happiness and a strong foundation built on honesty and respect. I also included a check for $28,000. Kevin called me 2 days later, the first phone conversation we'd had in 7 years. Mom, I got your card. And the check, I don't understand. Why are you sending me money? You've sent me $4,000 over the past 4 years. You've committed to sending $1,000 a year for 35 years to repay the $35,000. Kevin, you're 52 years old. I'm 80. Neither of us is likely to live another 31 years to see that debt fully repaid. But I want to repay it. I need to. And you have been. Kevin, you've shown me through consistent action that you're genuinely trying to change. The $28,000 I'm sending you is me forgiving the remaining debt, not because you've earned it, but because I'm choosing to let it go. Mom, I can't accept this. Yes, you can. Kevin, use it for your marriage, for a down payment on a modest house you can actually afford, for building a life with Rachel that's based on living within your means rather than pretending to have money you don't have. Use it to start fresh. I don't deserve this. No, you don't, but I'm giving it anyway. Kevin, I'm 80 years old. I've spent 7 years being angry at you, being hurt, being disappointed, and I'm tired. I want to spend whatever years I have left at peace, and holding on to this resentment isn't peace. Does this mean we can have a relationship again? I don't know, maybe. We can start small, occasional phone calls, maybe a lunch sometime. Kevin, I'm not ready to jump back into mother-son closeness, but I'm willing to try rebuilding some kind of relationship. That's more than I deserve. Thank you, Mom. Kevin, one more thing. Your marriage, build it on honesty. If you're having financial problems, tell Rachel. If you're struggling, ask for help openly. Don't lie. Don't deceive. Don't try to hide problems until they explode. The deception destroys everything. The honesty, even when it's hard, that's what builds trust. I will, Mom, I promise. Rachel and I have already agreed, complete financial transparency. Joint accounts we both manage, regular budget meetings, no secrets. After that conversation, Kevin and I started talking monthly. Brief calls at first, just checking in. Gradually, the calls got longer. We talked about his work, his marriage, his life. He never asked me for money, never hinted at financial need. And when I asked about his finances, he was honest. We're managing, not wealthy, but stable. We have a small emergency fund. We're saving for retirement. Mom, for the first time in my life, I'm living within my means and it feels good. A year after Kevin's wedding, I met Rachel. She and Kevin came to visit, and we had lunch together. Rachel was warm, genuine, and clearly good for Kevin. She talked about their budget, their savings goals, their plans for the future. She treated money seriously with respect. After lunch, Rachel pulled me aside. "Mrs. Bennett, I want you to know, Kevin has told me everything about what he did to you, and I want you to know I'd never let him do anything like that again. We have complete financial transparency. I see every account, every transaction. If Kevin ever tried to deceive me about money, I'd know immediately." I'm glad Kevin found someone who holds him accountable. He holds himself accountable now, but I'm here as a safeguard. Mrs. Bennett, I know Kevin hurt you badly. I know rebuilding trust takes time, but I want you to know he's not the same person who stole from you. He's worked hard to change. Over the next few years, Kevin proved Rachel right. He maintained steady employment. He managed money responsibly. He built a life based on honesty rather than deception. And slowly, carefully, we rebuilt some semblance of a relationship. Not the mother-son closeness we'd had before. That was gone forever. But something new. Something built on realistic expectations rather than blind trust. Now, at 85 years old, I look back on everything that happened and see it clearly. My daughter-in-law spoke for me at the bank. She tried to paint me as incompetent, confused, in need of protection. She built a false narrative designed to justify taking control of my finances. But I let her finish. I stayed quiet and listened, and what I learned by listening saved me. If I'd interrupted Amanda immediately, if I'd defended myself right away, I would have missed hearing their full plan. I wouldn't have known about the conservatorship petition they were preparing, wouldn't have understood how systematically they'd been working to gain control of my money. That silence, that strategic choice to listen rather than react, gave me the information I needed to fight back effectively. I learned that sometimes the most powerful response to lies isn't immediate denial. It's patient listening, careful documentation, and strategic action. I learned that family relationships don't excuse theft. That love doesn't mean accepting abuse. That protecting yourself isn't betraying your children, it's respecting yourself. I learned that people can change, but change requires genuine accountability, consistent action over time, and a willingness to make amends without expecting immediate forgiveness. And I learned that sometimes the best thing you can do when someone is lying about you is to stay quiet, let them finish, and give them enough rope to hang themselves with their own words. My daughter-in-law spoke for me at the bank. I let her finish, and what I heard changed everything. Not just my relationship with my son, not just my financial security, but my understanding of my own strength. I'd spent decades being a helper, a supporter, a giver. I'd raised 2 sons alone. I'd worked hard to provide for them. I'd lent money I never got back. I'd prioritized their needs over my own. But when Kevin tried to steal my entire future, when Amanda tried to paint me as incompetent, I finally learned to prioritize myself, to protect myself, to fight for myself. That fight wasn't easy. It destroyed my relationship with my son for years. It led to criminal trials and prison sentences. It exposed family dysfunction publicly. But it also saved me, saved my independence, saved my dignity, saved my financial security. And ultimately, it saved Kevin too. Because facing consequences forced him to change in ways he never would have if I'd just accepted his theft and stayed silent. My daughter-in-law spoke for me at the bank. I let her finish. And in that moment of strategic silence, I learned the most important lesson of my life. Your voice matters most when you choose when and how to use it. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is speak up immediately. And sometimes the wisest thing you can do is stay quiet, listen carefully, and gather the information you need to win the war, not just the battle. I chose wisely, and that choice saved everything. If this story touched you, please subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for more emotional stories like this. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Somewhere out there, I might be reading.